Hearts of Iron 4 is a pretty interesting game, but at the same time it has severe limitations that ruin its potential as a grand strategy. Because of this, I've been looking around YouTube and have seen criticisms and reviews of the game, but none really focus on important game-changing mechanics that can be altered, and instead needlessly introduce overcomplicated mechanics that will do nothing to improve the quality of the game. I've even seen players suggest an incorporation of an economic system similar to Victoria 2, and that is frankly pointless. The purpose of the game is geared toward military strategy and not economic mobilization, so to place too much emphasis on the latter would prove disastrous to the overall results of the game. Now, this video isn't meant as a sharp disapproval of the game. I do find it quite refreshing compared to the complex features in previous Hearts of Iron games, and I completely understand Paradox's marketing strategy to broaden its audience, but what I'm mostly concerned with is that Paradox has simplified the game to the point where it hardly resembles the period it's meant to portray. And I understand the previous features like order of battles or the overly complicated tech tree from Hearts of Iron 3 are unneeded, but Paradox has turned the game into an arcade variant of what the game should at least be. The micromanagement from Order of Battles was unnecessary for this game, as one should assume that the player is acting more as a national leader rather than micromanaging the tasks of various military leaders. This is something Paradox did well in, since it is ludicrous to think that leaders like Hitler or Stalin would have been able to effectively coordinate 20 or more divisions themselves. The game does a pretty good job of making it clear that micromanagement within the military corps level is an assumed in-game mechanic that acts organically, but with the same direction and vision as the player. Now, what the game fails to act on is in the realm of speed, logistics, and terrain. Military formations during World War II were quite flexible and fluid, but they generally moved in broad fronts. In Hearts of Iron 4, infantry divisions move at a speed of astounding 4 kilometers an hour, even when occupying enemy provinces. Other than tiny infrastructure and terrain modifiers, there are no assumptions on fatigue or light resistance and no honest portrayals of partisan operations in the rear. This means that when a breakout is achieved, it is usually very difficult for the defender to plug the gap in the front line. This makes the offensive resemble a spiderweb rather than an actual front, as a single panzer division can harass the rear at full speed and with minimal supply constraints. I'm not necessarily saying to make the game easier for the defenders, but rather to incorporate a more realistic and challenging supply system. Right now, modifiers do almost nothing to units harassing an enemy's rear. It should be ludicrous to Paradox that the integrity of a single panzer division can be upheld in deep operational theaters of combat. It just makes the game broken because a country's defense could collapse almost immediately, even with a defense in depth or elastic defense strategy in place. Supply consumption and transfer costs should therefore be increased to ensure situations like that are rendered improbable. Infrastructure and terrain are also neglected. Infamous Rasputitsa, or Russian wet season, plays almost no role in slowing down German advances. It simply does not penalize armored divisions sufficiently in terrains like swamps. Because in reality, the central Belarusian marshes known as the Pripyat marshes should play a crucial role in limiting German movement. Cold weather also does almost nothing in causing attrition, therefore encouraging continuous blitzkrieg-style offensives without any pause. This is where Hearts of Iron 3 shined because it took infrastructure into account in constraining troop movements along the front. Just think about it for a second. Why do we really need cavalry other than production cost and speed advantage? It should act as a supplement to mechanized units when they are restricted in movement during the harsh Soviet winter. For the sake of brevity, I just want to point out that I'm not trying to complicate things. I'm simply pointing out that current gameplay mechanics make the game feel arcadey and only relevant if you can outclick your opponent. It shouldn't be that way. Players should be constrained in their movements and attempt to plan offensive operations like if they were playing chess, not checkers. These suggestions would still allow players to play at high speeds, but they would simply make gaming strategies less desirable. You could still encircle units and execute broader offensives, but with the excitement of strategic operations. Like honestly, when do you actually feel like you're fighting the Battle of Stalingrad, or Kursk, or even Moscow? Every province seems like a microcosm of the front, and it does little to increase the significance of any specific location. This also brings up the fact that Paradox seems to be using the same linear battle operations that it has in its previous games, like in Victoria or Crusader Kings. In these games, they have a decisive battle happen where two armies meet in the field and clash where one finally loses. In Hearts of Iron, this can't be done because there's a broad front where there are several smaller armies clashing continuously. They deal with a different time period and different military constraints with the same mentality, which is why they haven't altered their modifiers appropriately to amplify this change. There are obviously mods that are trying to address this, but they're so sparse and lack attention that most of them are simply outdated. I still like Hearts of Iron 4, but I'm still voicing what I find to be a very big problem. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I try to make content as frequently as possible, so please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in learning more about history, politics, philosophy, and a lot more other things.